Take it down, yeah. Okay, if we could grab our seats again. We have a fantastic discussion coming up with one of the legends in our industry, which will be great to hear. So if people can grab their seats and we'll keep the conversations down. It's a pleasure to introduce my brother, Matt McCleery, President, Marine Money. Come on up, Matty. And he will be in discussion with Richard Fulford-Smith. Come on. Good morning, Richard.
I have to get this close enough, front.
You're live. We good? Mike, thanks for that kind introduction. Okay, if you could grab a seat, and I am just totally honored to share the stage with Richard Fulford-Smith. Richard has been in the shipbroking business for about 50 years, and over that time he's done, I would say, hundreds of transactions, thousands of ships. And Richard has not only worked with the biggest owners in the shipping industry, he worked with many of them when they were still small. And I think that's something that is just unbelievably cool, and I'm excited to kind of talk about that. But more than just deals and commissions and all that, Richard really embodies the spirit that makes shipbroking just a one-of-a-kind industry in the world. So really happy to be with you today. So we're going to cover 50 years. We have 25 minutes, and I have about 8 hours worth of questions for Richard. So we'll do our best here. Okay, Richard, shipbroking is a highly competitive business, and you have worked with many of the biggest names in the industry, starting with names like Karas, Angela Koussis. I won't name them all. What do you think it was about you that, how did you build trust and add value to these ship owners?
Well, the first thing to say is that when you go into a business and you're 18 years of age, right, you need a lot of luck. You need to make some interestingly difficult decisions about where you position yourselves. I didn't have to do any of that because I had a mentor. But I also had luck. I have the luck to be married to a wonderful woman who supports me and a family that actually allowed me to travel around the world meeting a load of people. But I also realized that it was kind of pointless to approach people without actually asking difficult questions, easy questions. It didn't matter. You had questions to ask. And you just kind of get a reputation after a while for being horribly, brutally open. And dividing opinion. I love dividing opinion. Because if you divide opinion, you get a dialogue.
So what's like an example of that, of dividing opinion?
Well,
you don't have to name names, but
no,
just...
It's always more fun if you name names, isn't it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's up to you.
Okay, but I mean, if you want to divide opinion, we're talking about bold. Fortune favors the bold. No, fortune at the moment favors an awful lot of people who've basically been on the wrong side of what Lars Barstad was talking about in the dark fleet. I mean, Jesus Christ, I've gone on and on and on about it. I've driven everybody mad with my moaning about people not policing our oceans and allowing these type of accidents to occur. So it's very timely in a certain way that the Front Eagle was in collision with a dark fleet ship. And it just saddens me that we actually have an unpoliced industry. I mean, half the world's planet is, more than half the world's planet is covered with water. It's unpoliced. I drive down the road and I'm doing 23 miles an hour. I get banned. I just recently got banned from driving, by the way, for doing it too many times. But I should probably be banned from shipping because I have been pretty straightforward with people. And nobody sort of has really understood that what I want to do is actually look into the future. We're an evolving industry. If you're behind evolution, you're going backwards very fast. If you're ahead of evolution, don't be too far ahead. You know, you have to actually financially balance yourself. And, you know, although I've been a shipbroker, I've been an investor in the industry, really. I mean, I bought
we'll get into the investments in a minute. Looking back with the ship owners that you've worked with that have been very successful, did you prefer working with them when they were kind of scrappy, small startups, or when they became billionaires with endless resources? What was
Oh,
more
they became
fun?
a pain in the neck when they had too much money. Let's be perfectly clear about it, right? And, they tolerated me when I was trying to help them. And, yeah, I think people respond in different ways to success. And, you have people who today have made a lot of money and actually used it quite well. In shipping, we just tend to continue churning it until you either lose it or you're back. But actually, we've had very few failures recently. But yeah, they're much, much nicer people to deal with when they really kind of feel they need some help.
Okay. Good to know. In your experience over 50 years, what does it take to be a great ship owner? Is it ruthlessness, charm, gambling instincts? What are the qualities of the owners you've seen really succeed in this very difficult business?
Hey, listen, decision-making processes obviously have to be right, and timing has to be right. And when you have lunatics like me trying to divide their opinion, they've got to actually navigate between different views that they would have, but it's teamwork. And, people who've actually built good teams, have, generally speaking, built teams around people who do things better than themselves. And I think we all have to admit, when I was in Clarkson's, we built that very quickly. And I built it with a load of people who were just better than me at all the bits that they were doing. And I just became a great generalist, I suppose, but not particularly great. But at the end of the day, it's teamwork.
Teamwork. Shipbroking has a reputation for deals being done on cocktail napkins in hotel bars and not on spreadsheets in Excel. In fact, Jake Scott, an investor yesterday, said that good shipping deals never work in Excel. They don't look good. What is your experience? How are these transactions done, and has it changed over the course?
I have witnessed the napkin you're talking about. Listen, at the end of the day, every sensible ship owner actually has somebody who does the detail work for him on buying and selling boats, fleets of ships, whatever it is. And we've been involved in, fortunately, over the years, quite a few fleet sales. And yes, the conversations you have in a bar when they're half drunk and they have to be reminded in the morning what they'd agreed to. That has happened, I freely admit it. But that also happened when people were slightly more flippant about it. But when you get to become involved in capital markets, then you spread your responsibilities beyond just your own people in a private company, but to also third-party shareholders, and you treat them in a proper way. And I think if I look at the way shipping's evolved and marine money, and, I think everybody said nice things this week about Jim, what a remarkable man and what a remarkable thing he's done. And, I have to say, there are a lot of remarkable people who have actually set the stage for our industry to evolve in a fundamentally great way. I've had so much fun in 50 years. I mean, I could not have gone into a better industry, and I'm so grateful to everybody here and in the industry for what's happened to me. And it's difficult to leave it alone, so I'll probably stay in it a certain way. But
Well, we hope you do. You talked about what it takes to be a successful ship owner. How about a successful shipping investor? Do you invest in publicly traded shipping stocks? And what do you think is what are the elements of success for doing that?
Well, the first thing to say is I love transparency. And I think if we had greater transparency across the business, that would be good. I'm afraid to say that capital markets actually values shipping companies at a fairly significant discount to the word that we didn't want to talk about, NAV. And talking about NAV, it's time that we started regulating our industry when it comes to ships valuations, which has been the source of an enormous amount of corruption over many years, right?
Yeah.
But no, you need trust. And so you need trust management. You need to have a very clear message about how you dividend that out. What is your policy in terms of depreciation? I think it's extremely important that people actually are very confident that they know what they're investing in. I have to say that the record of the owning community in going into the capital markets has too often been associated with an impression which I understand from an American investor point of view. These guys are just coming so that they can actually have us build their company, wait for the trough, and then they'll buy it back from us for nothing. That's really not very clever.
Yeah.
So, I think trust, integrity of management. You want management to be efficient. You need management to be very clear in describing precisely what it is that is going to provide the yield that you expect. If you are coming from a technology point of view, have they correctly invested in the future as well, because obviously an awful lot of what I see at the moment is a hugely exciting moment in time where legislation is going to work very positively to promote an awful lot of fleet renewal. You've talked a lot about fleet renewal. Oh my God, we've got enough shipyards in the world to build these ships, or do we? According to our friend Donald, he wants to build some more ships here. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit.
I
said I wasn't going to name names. You said that was okay to name names, so I'm just going to name one. You, in the 1980s, came across a young ship owner named John Fredrickson. He was relatively early in his career, I think. Can you talk about sort of how you met him, and did you see in him and kind of recognize that he would go on to become arguably like the greatest ship owner of all time? I mean, can you tell us about that?
I could talk about it. It's very simple. He was just a fun guy to be around. Okay? He had some pretty straightforward ideas, and he was a broker. He started in Greek. I started as a broker. It took me a long time to get round to investing in ships myself. He started from nowhere. My dad was a mechanic, and his dad was a welder. No, he was just a great buccaneer and a character, and I knew that you could actually work together with a guy like that to actually just exchange ideas and views, and he wasn't too proud not to be able to agree to disagree.
Yeah. So maybe that goes in the category of surrounding yourself with very bright people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, John's companies were doing okay. The transition came when he met up with Turolaf, and I was there at the time, 95, 96, and we went on and we did the ICB deal to split the fleet between Angela Koussis and him with Frontline, and that was the start of John's success.
That was a kind of a magical partnership, right? I mean,
when I knew him, he was dealing with Bassatni, I was dealing with Bari, and we were trading insults in a funny sort of way, but it was great fun.
Yeah, that's great. I read a comment that you made once that John Fredrickson replaced the old guard in ship owning, and I was wondering, what do you think the next generation of ship owners is like? Do you see, what do you think the profile of the next very successful owner will be? Are there more self-made people like that? I mean, there are others. I'm just naming him, but what do you think the future holds for like ship owning?
I think we look at the entrepreneurs. We call them entrepreneurs. A lot of these guys were just gambling on the future, but they also egotists. They were human beings who were riding the wave of success as well. And we'd seen the old guard, which was the Rextons and the Bergesons and these people, being replaced by somebody who was probably not too welcome because he was considered to be from a different class. In the UK, we had a tragedy from the British Empire where people were entitled, or so they felt, to continue to be in shipping, and were trying to actually transition into bulk shipping because the liner companies obviously were losing their presence, what became containerized, unitized business. And those people were incompetent to make a decision because they couldn't listen, because they weren't listening to people like my mentor, Harry Hughes, who came from a very humble background, but had an extremely good mind, understood what was motivating these people, and it was basically the old school, and we suffered from that for a long time. Today, the UK still is full of institutions with people who feel an entitlement to which I have a problem with.
Yeah, so kind of
changed. So John was part of actually taking over from people who had possibly left the door open for the next generation. The door is wide open now for next generation.
Wide open. All right, that's encouraging for this crowd. Booms make money, but busts make fortunes. And you've seen booms and busts starting, I guess, in the Yom Kippur War in the 70s through COVID. Which do you like better, booms or bust?
Oh, I think the busts are great fun for people like me, because it means that people are just a little bit more humble to deal with, because they kind of need you a bit more. When everything's going swimmingly well, these guys are actually less approachable, bizarrely. When they enjoy it, they have fun. But it's a time of opportunity. When we were in 1986, which is the bottom of the 80s cycle, when we had interest rates through the roof, 16, 17% interest rates, you knew that people were, for probably for the last time going to be going seriously bankrupt. We haven't had many bankruptcies, you know, since that time, but Salem and the things that happened in '86, I was busy buying ships for Russians, since I mentioned a bit about being bold. But that was a time where they really needed ships. The Ukraine harvest had failed in '86. We bought 30 ships in the space of 2 months in order to make up for that. It was a time of great opportunity. So bus, I like bus. They're really good.
Yeah.
The only way is up.
Bus, right. I mean, I feel like we haven't had bus lately, and I'm wondering if that's a result of the excess liquidity in the system or the interest rates, or, I mean, do you think we're going to have another shipping bust anytime soon?
I think people have really got to the stage where, provided you can ride the down cycles, and it's helped an awful lot when your capital costs are as low as they have been since the 1980s. I mean, you know, you think about the average interest rate over the last 60 years, probably somewhere around 7%. So we're still below that long-term trend.
Yeah.
So it's slightly easier, but when you were dealing with 16, 17%, you had to find opportunity. I bought a school fees plan actually at 17%. The bank tried to buy me out of it because that was to cover the school fee. So you do things differently. What you do is you invest, because that's the time when capital's hardest to come by, and there's going to be very little competition.
But do you see one coming? What's going to cause the next bust? I mean, the ship owners, we just heard from the crude oil tankers, I mean, their balance sheets have literally never been stronger in decade or ever, as far as I'm aware. Do you think that's going to take the edge off of the busts, or what's your view?
I think very clearly you get a ton-mile demand change dramatically, because the one thing that's difficult to forecast is demand, because there are so many events happening in this world at this very moment.
Yeah.
So I said to people who've asked me, what are you investing in now? And I go, really boring, I'm in gilts. And that is really boring, but it means that I don't know. And I'm not alone in that, because we don't know what happens tomorrow.
Well, I also heard you invested in some VLCCs, so maybe it's not just gilts.
Yeah, oh, no, don't worry, I'm in Vs. don't worry, we're in Vs, and we're in dual fuel Vs, by the way.
Did you have a favorite deal? I mean, you've done a lot of deals, and is there anything that is that like asking about a favorite child, or is there a deal that sticks out in your mind as like?
Well,
special?
I think I mentioned what we did with ICB. Cullersten was at Nordea. I was working on the other side with Angela Kousis, and so John and Tor and I were sort of trading in a very good way how to split that fleet up, and it worked. So that was one. Obviously, the acquisition at the very bottom of the market of all those ships for the Russians was great. And then what evolved afterwards probably wasn't so much fun, because trying to work out what had really happened inside the Kremlin in 2005 to 2008, where I wanted to take them to court, because I didn't actually stand for what I call chinless wonders on the board, who just were kind of not willing to stand up and fight something which was a pretty horrid adversary to be dealing with. But yeah, no, favorite deals, I would definitely say that. But yeah, I've also had a lot of fun with Dorolaf recently, making investments in things like Himalaya, where we took it here at the beginning of 23, and that was great fun to be here on the New York Stock Exchange. And we recently put it on the bourse, on the main board there. So yeah, no, there have been many, many times that I've thought that's fantastic. Fleet deals with Theodore Angelopoulos from Metrostar, great support from Peter Livanos over many years, the Chandris family, John and Tor. I know it's been fantastic fun. And irritating the hell out of the Norwegian brokers by getting too much involved in them. That was quite fun as well. But yeah, if you look at the products market, I had great fun helping Robert to sell the OMI thing, where we managed to blag somebody else to buy it for quite a lot of money.
That was...
You know, it's that sort of thing. And you're trying to make a market. I think one of the things that, you know, brokers can be useful for is creating a market, not out of providing disinformation, but providing alternative views.
Yeah, but dividing the views, as you say.
I love doing that.
I want to talk a little bit about your career as a shipbroker, and also about the ship brokerage business. Correct me if I'm got any of this wrong, but I think you started as a shipbroker at Hyde and then went to SSY. You joined Clarkson in 1992. You became chairman in 2004. In 2008, you left. We can talk about that if you want, or we don't have to, whatever.
So I'll try and keep this quite quick, because you cover basically quite a lot of time. But
I have more. Let me finish my question, and then you can decide. Anyway,
more to this question.
More. So you left Clarkson's in 2008. I mean, you presided over the world's biggest shipbroker during the world's greatest shipping boom. That must have been fun.
Brilliant, yeah.
Okay, but so you left Clarkson's in 2008. You, after gardening leave, joined Peter Anker at Plateau, and then sold Plateau to Clarkson's. And I'm just wondering if that was part of like a master plan.
Yeah. When I started in an office, a temporary office, in 2008 with just 3 of us, I really thought, I tell you what, I'm going to sell this back to Clarkson's 5 years later. No, we got lucky. We got lucky with timing. I knew that the bulk shipping markets were going to struggle. In fairness, I'd been warning the shareholders of Clarkson's that Bear Stearns probably was the moment in time where we should have had a bigger problem, and it took an extra year and a bit to get to Lehman's. But if you just track back, yeah, no, I started in ship owning with the Dempster Blue Funnel Line. I learned about how people had to modernize, and when they didn't, we had to sell some ships. They ordered an LNG carrier, it sat in locks driven for 25 years. I mean, you know, we went through the tragedy of people not being able to stay ahead of what was required of evolution. And then I went to basically start broking from within the Dempster Blue Funnel, and so we had to sell a whole fleet of ships because they were redundant. So you met the real ruffians in the business. That was great. And then I went to Egger Forrester for about 12 months until I told the chairman what I thought of him, which didn't go down terribly well. So, you know, I got summoned and told that I should try somewhere else, which I did. And Stash Josvac and I went and created Hyde, which was a company which didn't know what competitive broking was about. And the rest is kind of history. But Simpsons was a great move for me to make because that was a truly competitive shipbroking outfit. So that was when I met, for example, John Frederickson. I had much more to do with Simon Day and people like that. And yeah, it was a good journey. And Hong Kong was a fantastic place to be in the 80s. I spent half my time out there. People were, you know, doing acquisitions long term, and you know, the sort of things that Ole Hartucker has actually managed to do inside and outside the Frederickson Group. But it was started by the Hong Kong Chinese, and then yeah. From Simpsons, they wouldn't basically reconstitute themselves from a general partnership, and I didn't like the idea of doing derivatives with unlimited liability to the partners, so I refused a partnership, and there were only 2 of them left. And today, I'm delighted to say Stanco has actually managed to abandon the general partnership in my head, probably 25 years later than he should have done. But hey, that's fine.
You got there.
We got there, and Clarkson's was just fantastic fun. Yeah. And I tried to make the place completely transparent. I wanted everybody to know that they should be paid better than anybody else if they did a better job than the most. They knew me as Jose Mourinho because I was chucking around money at good people to come and join us. We got Andy and Julian in at the end, towards the end. And no, it was just a fantastic time. And I think teamwork was what I considered at the time to be the most important thing to make company better, grow it. But when it got to 750 people, and it was 250 when I took it over, so we'd grown it quite a bit in those 5 years. And we had dear old Martin Stopford telling us to be careful, and telling the board, don't listen to this guy, Fulford, he's mad, you know. But China was doing something which was changing shipping, and forever in a certain way.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing story. What do you think about the combination of ship brokerage and investment banking? Do you think that's a fit that, I mean, I guess you were involved with that previously?
You know, I talked about luck, and we just got lucky. Let's face it, Plateau. When I joined up with Peter, I said, listen, I've been doing this damn job of trying to be the CEO, not chairman, by the way. Do I look like a chairman? Do I sound like a chairman? I'm not a chairman. So I was CEO of that. And you learn to deal with the investors, what the investors should expect. You need to actually demonstrate that you are as open about what you fear going forward. It's not just the auditors that are supposed to actually tell the audience that you need to be mindful of this, that, and the other. You should do that, and investors need to be aware that they can be confident that you'll tell them when it's not a good time to be following the company in times of hype. But no, it's good.
Yeah, okay. I can't see the clock. Okay. We have a few minutes left here. I still have a lot of questions, so I'm going to just make some decisions here. Over 50 years, you've seen a lot of changes in technology. In 1999, obviously, was the dot-com boom, and now we have AI. Do you think AI is going to change the business of chartering and sale and purchase?
I think it's going to provide us with a much greater ability, if we use it properly, to give proper advice to shareholders and ship owners alike. I think the ability to process data is importantly going to be more efficient, but I don't think AI as a predictive tool alone is something I would rely upon, because it's the unexpected which changes our industry.
Right. No, it's a good point. Okay, looking back, was there a mentor who kind of changed the arc of your life and career?
Hey, listen, I started to be a pain when I was at school, and I had a great economics and business studies teacher who gave me a very good grounding in terms of going into the industry, but he was also completely barking mad. He was an Irishman, and he was on the left of centre. He had me standing on picket lines down in Kent at a coal mine, because we needed to be left of centre. We needed to be what we should be at 17, 18 years, as far as I was concerned. But I was involved heavily in the sailing side. We were unbeaten for 5 years. I was captain of sailing. I was the only captain of any sport at my school never to be made a prefect. Do I need to tell you any more?
No.
So, that's kind of where we are.
Looking back over your career, what are you most proud of?
Still being alive after 50 years, isn't it? No, I think it's not a matter of pride. It's a matter of actually just being, hopefully, able to add value to people who you actually believe in and trust. And you start with family, and you go through all your friends that you make. And we've had a hell of a wonderful time with friends. And foes alike. The foes are even certainly more fun. I love poking the foes and just questioning them, because it's an industry where you should be able to talk to anybody. And I really quite like the idea of helping people who need greater help as well. I was well known at Clarkson's for knowing all the people from the post from all the way up, because I just kind of felt that they were the people you needed least. The people who I probably struggled with was, every year we had to go through a bonus process where people were making a hell of a lot of money just being involved with where they were, but it's been great fun.
Okay, I want to end with the question that I ask often during interviews, which is, we have a lot of young people in the audience, and obviously we're all interested in encouraging young people into the industry. And I was just wondering what advice you would give to young people who are here today, and also just considering the shipping industry.
Listen, ask questions. I mean, there's not much else to say. Is that you, as I said from the beginning, you don't plan to be successful, you hope to be successful.
And you said yourself you've had a lot of luck in your career, right?
Oh, huge amount of luck. I think all the people in this room that have done well have had their fair dose of luck. Yeah. I think you need occasionally to take a bit of a kicking too. I think that actually helps. That can kind of makes you a bit more resilient. Yeah. I took a hell of a kicking when we had, people sitting outside our house, our phones being tapped by the Russian, lawyers, agents, or whoever they were that was doing that. No, we've had tough times as well.
Yeah, a good kicking. Well, the industry does give a good kick every now and then. So, Richard Fulford-Smith, 50 years, thousands of deals and ships, and thank you. And always a lot of fun. So, thank you, Richard.